the BBC presents Guilty Party. A problem in crime detection in which you are invited to match your wits with a panel of experts. John Arnott, F.R. Buckley, and Robert Fabian. First you'll hear Slippery Sam, a crime play from the casebook of Joe Macready, private investigator. From the various clues given in the play, the panel will decide on a line of investigation and cross-examine the suspects, who give unscripted answers to their questions. This cross-examination should lead the panel to the guilty party. Now, here's Joe Macready.
The party started at 2 a.m. It was one of those parties you wish you'd never been to when it's over. When it began, the weather was crisp and clear and bright. So were Inspector Galloway and I. When it finished at 6:30 a.m., the weather had turned very foggy. So had we. We were walking back home through a district full of large, detached Victorian houses that seemed to look at us with disdain and draw in their skirts as we passed. I didn't blame them. Here and there, the fog would clear a little, and we could see things.
You know, Joe, when these houses were built, all Englishmen of note had big stomachs. And when they spoke, the world trembled.
Sounds vaguely Rabelaisian, but it's too early to work it out. What's more...
What's more what? Why have you stopped?
There was a break in the fog, and I looked towards that house. It seemed to me there was somebody lying at the foot of the front steps.
Somebody from the party we've just left, I shouldn't wonder.
No, seriously. Let's have a look.
You're dead right, Joe.
It's an old man.
A very old man. He must have fallen down the steps.
Poor old chap's in pretty bad shape. I wonder how long he's been here. What's that I smell?
Scent of some kind. Don't let's bother about scent. Let's get in and phone for the ambulance.
Now, careful on these front steps, Inspector. Otherwise, you'll finish up alongside this chap. Hey, look, they've been soaked.
Soaked?
Yeah. Somebody's deliberately spread soap all over the steps. Scented soap. Look, it's quite thick.
Good Lord, so they have. What a crazy thing to do. Ring the bell, Joe, while I wrap my overcoat over this chap. Better not try to move him in case we do more harm than good.
Scented soap all over the 3 front steps. You know, Inspector, if anybody knew this old boy was going out early this morning, they might have meant this to happen.
Now, don't put me on duty, Joe. Not this morning. Let me get some sleep first.
Yes? Who is it? What do you want?
Good morning. Sorry to bother you, but there's a man lying at the foot of your front steps.
Eh? Oh, my goodness gracious. It's Sam. It's Mr. Stiles.
We must phone for an ambulance quickly.
Let me see him.
Oh, careful. Mind the steps. Somebody has spread soap all over them.
Soap?
Yes. Scented soap.
Oh, no. Not scented soap. Oh.
Here, hold on. Whatever's wrong, don't you go and faint on us.
Take her inside, Joe, and get that confounded ambulance quick. There's something very odd going on here, seems to me.
The inspector was right, but we didn't realize just how odd until we got inside the house. The old lady, Mary Ann Drood, her name was, sat bleakly staring at nothing while we called the ambulance and saw the old man safely packed off.
I know you're upset, Mrs. Drood.
Miss Drood.
Oh, sorry, Miss Drood. But if you could answer 1 or 2 questions. Are you alone in the house?
Alone? Why should I be? Bertram Stiles is here, so is Oswald on my boy Albert.
Well, where are they? We've been here 20 minutes now, and still no sign of them yet.
I take them tea at 8:30. They won't budge till then. Only Sam got up early. He was the early bird. But he was too old for taking walks at 6 o'clock every morning. I told him, but it was like talking to a brick wall.
Everybody knew that he went down those front steps for his early morning walk?
Of course they knew. That's why somebody put soap there so he'd fall and break his neck.
Did everybody want him out of the way?
Of course they did. He was peculiar, Sam Stiles was very peculiar. Got funny ways and very cantankerous. And if he dies, we get his money. Split 4 ways.
Much money?
£80,000. 20,000 each for Bertram and Oswald, and me and my boy. You see, though he never married me, my Albert was Sam Stiles' son. And he's a good boy. Wasn't him that done it. It's one of the other 2.
Bertram and Oswald are his sons?
No. His nephews. Oh. Sam never married. Always promised he'd marry me one day. He never got round to it. Well, I was a servant, you see. I was a housekeeper. His nephews didn't approve. Made it hard for my Albert.
What time do you get up in the morning, Miss Drood?
5 o'clock sharp. I like to scrub the front steps before it's light.
And you scrubbed them this morning?
Well, nobody else would do it, would they? Oh, no. Bertram and Oswald haven't done a stroke of work in their lives. Lived on their Uncle Sam, waiting for him to die.
Did you hear Uncle Sam go out this morning?
Yes. 6 o'clock he came thumping down the stairs with his walking stick. went out the front door as usual, and I started to cook the breakfast for him. He always stayed out 3/4 of an hour, whatever the weather. Stark raving mad if you asked me, but you couldn't change him.
So, if you scrubbed the front steps at 5 o'clock and Uncle Sam fell down them at 6, it suggests that someone must have come downstairs and put the soap there in between those times.
Of course.
Unless you put the soap there.
Me? I'm an old woman. I've lived here all my life. If Sam dies, this place will be sold up. Bertram and Oswald and my Albert, well, they'll all clear off, you see, because they'll have money.
So will you have money?
And no home, and nobody to live with. Oh, no.
Mom? Where are you, Mom?
That's my Albert. I'm here, Albert. Downstairs.
Somebody's pinched my soap.
There, you see. Somebody's taken Albert's soap. As I said, it's one of them two upstairs. They took his soap and used it to put the blame on Albert.
Don't say anything, Mr. Rood. Leave the talking to us.
But I'm quiet. Do that.
It was a brand new tablet of Narcissus like they advertise on the telly with French perfume in it. Cost me 3 and 6. Oh, hello, who are you? I'm Detective Inspector Galloway, Scotland Yard. This is Mr. Macready, private investigator. Oh, glad to meet you. What do you want? Don't tell me we've got detectives here to find my soap, even if it did cost 3 and 6. What soap, Mom?
I'll tell you soon enough.
Uncle Sam's had an accident.
Fatal? Probably. I shall do that world tour yet, Mom.
Albert, and him your own father.
And a lot he cared about that. Wouldn't even make it legal.
That'll do.
Well, how would you like
Tell me.
Older? Have you only just got up? No. Been up since 5.
Albert, you haven't.
You woke me when you opened the front door to do the steps. So I got up and went out to my shed at the back, been fixing the clutch of my motorbike.
But I didn't see you come back into the house, Albert. Did you come in through the front door then?
No. Came through the kitchen. What time? About 10 minutes ago. You weren't there, Mom. I came into the kitchen and went up the back stairs to my room. I was a bit mucky, so I thought I'd have a bath and use my new soap. It wasn't there, so I shouted. Does everyone use scented soap in this house? No, only me. I like the smell. Where'd you keep it? The soap. In my room on the wash basin.
And while you were in the shed, did you start up your motorbike?
Oh, yeah.
And didn't you hear it, Mr. Rood?
No.
No reason why she should. The shed's right at the end of a long garden on a different side of the house to the kitchen. The fog deadens the sound.
Thank you, Mr. Drood.
Ah.
Now, Mr. Drood, if you'll show us the rooms of Mr. Bertram and Mr. Oswald,
We'd like a few words with them. In private.
You'll have it in private, all right. Neither of them's up out of bed yet.
But Miss Drood was wrong. We went to Bertram Styles' bedroom first, and we could hear the sound of music coming from it. We knocked on the door, and it was opened by a keen-eyed, alert man of about 40, dressed in a sweater, shorts, and tennis shoes.
Marianne, I told you. Oh, I beg your pardon. Who are you? The police. I'm Inspector Galloway, Scotland Yard, and this is Joe Macready. Really? Something happened? Burglary? Damage? Anyone hurt?
Your Uncle Sam has had a nasty fall.
Has he really? Well. Poor old Uncle Sam. But he comes to all of us. Who does? The Great Reaper. Death.
He hasn't booked in yet. Uncle Sam's still alive.
Oh, I see. At first I thought you meant he was dead. Excuse me, I'll switch off my mood music. It seems hardly proper to play music like this while Uncle Sam is suffering. What time are you up this morning, Mr. Styles? I gathered from Miss Drood that you normally slept late. I heard Uncle Sam go hobbling past my door at 6, so I decided to get up and do some contemplative thinking and musical mood exercises. I'm that kind of person. Somebody deliberately smeared soap on the front doorstep so that your Uncle Sam would come a cropper. Do you know anybody who's that kind of person? Oh, yes. In the circumstances, I would say that anyone in the house might be capable of a thing like that.
Including yourself?
Yes, you see, we've all been getting on each other's nerves for years. Oswald and Mary Ann and that frightful illegitimate son of hers. After all, if Uncle Sam wanted to sow his wild oats, that was his affair. But there was no need to parade the unfortunate consequences in front of the rest of the family. And then to leave them each a share in the will. That, of course, was Uncle Sam's warped sense of humor. Where did the joke come in, then? He knew that Oswald and I hated the idea of sharing the money with the Droods.
We gather that you don't earn your living.
Oh, I have my studies.
Oh?
I'm working on a new higher thought method of curing the world's problems. And would £20,000 help that work? £20,000 would help any kind of work or play. But I didn't do anything to hurt Uncle Sam.
Where were you at 5:30?
In bed, asleep, like any normal, sensible person. Oh, by the way, did you know that Mary Ann Drood scrubs the front steps at 5 o'clock every morning?
We did. Why?
I just wondered. I merely wondered. A stupid time to do the job I've always thought, but it does provide opportunities, doesn't it?
Opportunities for what?
For putting soap on steps, naturally. What else would Mary Ann want an opportunity for, at her age? Are you and your brother Oswald both bachelors? At the moment, although I confess I am paying attention to a certain Miss Frisbee, But, of course, nothing can reach fruition until I come into my inheritance from Uncle.
So you'd be relieved financially if he did die?
I should be delighted, gentlemen. But murder isn't the kind of thing which fits into our studies for the higher thought method of curing the world's problems. Far too ruthless.
Oswald Stiles took a lot of waking. We hammered and hammered until eventually a sleepy, disheveled, bad-tempered little man stood peering at us short-sightedly.
Well, come in. Let me close the door and keep the cold out. Who are you and what do you want? Come in. I hate the cold.
I'm Detective Inspector Galloway, Scotland Yard. This is Joe McCready, private investigator. We're investigating an accident suffered by your Uncle Sam.
Oh, really? Fancy now.
You don't seem very upset.
Would you like me to take the line again with a stronger note of regret?
You're surprised your uncle should have had an accident?
My dear man, any doddery old gentleman of 80-odd who chooses to go out walking at 6 o'clock in the thick fog must expect accidents. What happened?
He fell down the front steps. They were made slippery with soap.
Really? The times I've told that rude woman to leave the steps until later. Is he badly hurt?
Pretty badly. I suppose you didn't hear anything at all?
I've had my head firmly on the pillow all night until you woke me up. Why have you woken me up anyway? Can't Miss Drood cope?
We thought you might be interested.
Not in the least. The only things I'm interested in are sleeping, eating, and keeping warm. Apart from my work.
And what work do you do?
I'm writing a thesis on the Wild West.
The Wild West?
You mean cowboys and Indians?
In a loose way, yes. The folklore, the heroism, the opening up of new frontiers. I was born too late, gentlemen.
Yes. Bet you'd have been quite a handful for Wyatt Earp and all the other sheriffs.
It's funny you should be so keen on the wide open spaces. Yet here you are in a hothouse atmosphere with electric fire blazing, windows hermetically sealed, curtains drawn.
The climate in Texas and Arizona is a trifle different from the climate of this beastly country. Or didn't you know?
But can you sleep in a fog like this?
I not only can, I do. And if you gentlemen don't mind, that's what I propose to go right on doing.
What soap do you use, Mr. Stiles?
Carbolic. And I put it on my hands and my face and my body, but not on the front doorstep.
Thank you very much. Well, Joe, let's go and look around the kitchen. Come on. Leave Mr. Oswald Stiles to his lonely couch.
So we looked round the kitchen, and sure enough, there in the floor bucket was all that remained of a cake of soap. Scented soap. Narcissus. As advertised on the telly, with French perfume in it. It looked and smelt out of place in a bucket. But perhaps that was the idea.
Well, listeners and members of the panel, there is your problem. And now here's Edward J. Mason to introduce the suspects.
And the suspects in this particular case of scented soap are Mary Ann Drood, her son Albert Drood, and the two rather weird nephews, Oswald and Bertram Stiles. So now I'll hand them over with great pleasure to you, John Arlott, and let's see if you and your panel of experts can decide who is the guilty party.
And I think, first of all, we'd better talk to Albert Drood. And I think the first question we want to ask you, Albert, is this. You don't go out to work, do you?
Oh, yes.
You do a full day's work?
Oh, yes.
Where do you work?
I work in the garage.
Was that why you get up to look after your motorbike in your own time when you could do it in the firm's time at the garage?
Oh, I'm not that sort of workman. I'm very keen on motorbikes.
And what time do you reckon you went down to your motorbike this morning?
I didn't look at my watch, I think it'd be about 5:30, something like that, I don't know.
And what time would you say you came back?
About an hour later. A bit more, about an hour quarter, something like that.
Did you have a wash before you went down to the motorbike?
Oh, no.
Where's your bedroom?
My bedroom upstairs.
I know. But where in respect to the front door? Or the back door?
Oh, it's,
East or west of the house?
It's, oh, I don't know, east and west. It's over the back.
Over the back, is it?
Just near to the shed, that side.
And when you get up and leave your room, do you lock your door at all?
Oh, no.
Is there a key there?
I don't know. I've never thought.
How old was your tablet of soap?
Well, I only bought it yesterday. The day before.
The day before?
Yes. Yes. It was nice. It's scented.
How large a tablet was it?
Well, just the ordinary sort of size.
Oh, there's 2 or 3 sizes. Bath size, ordinary size?
Oh, ordinary size.
Ordinary size.
Yes.
Had you used it at all?
No.
Where was it?
In the soap dish?
Unwrapped?
No. Taking the wrappings off.
Had you mentioned it to anybody else in the house that you'd got it?
Oh, yes. I told my mother to smell it.
Anybody else?
Don't think so. Can't remember.
Tell me about this shed of yours where you have your motorcycle. It's down the garden, is it?
It's on the side at the back.
On the side at the back.
Yes.
Is there a gate leading out of that garden into the street?
Yes, there is.
Yes. So you could really go out of the garden into the street and round to the front door if you felt like it, couldn't you?
Oh, don't see the point.
Well, you could, couldn't you?
Oh, you could, yes.
If you did manage to see the point for once, you could go round to the front door.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Good. All right, we'll leave you for a moment, Albert. And I think now we'd better talk to your mother, if we may. What sort of soap do you use to clean the steps?
Well, I don't use soaps at all. You see, if you used to know about steps, you see, you use whitening. Put it on a cloth and you do it like that, just so you wipe it over.
And where did you put the whitening when you'd finished using it?
The whitening goes in a cupboard under the sink, you see, and the cloth I wring out and I hang up.
But now, you took a bucket out, did you?
Oh, yes, bucket with water in, of course you have to do.
You wash the steps off, scrub them off?
Yes, you scrub them and then you whiten them, you see. And then you wash the cloth in the bucket and hang it up.
But then you don't use soap to wash them off, just water?
No, just water.
Miss Drood, when the other officers asked you, did you scrub the steps this morning, you replied, who else would scrub them?
Well, yes.
Yes, but you did not say whether you had scrubbed them or not. That was an evasive answer.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Did you scrub them?
I did,
Good.
certainly.
People are always trying to deceive
Yes.
us. I don't know why.
Yeah, I scrub them every morning.
And now you took the bucket back into the kitchen,
Yeah.
emptied it,
I think it yes, emptied it.
put it down the usual place with the scrubbing brush?
Yes, under the sink.
Well, now,
The scrubbing brush isn't in the bucket, you see, because I want to dry it off.
now
Put
was,
it on the top of the stove.
did you put any soap in the bucket when you got back in?
No, I didn't.
Did you see any soap in the bucket at any time?
No.
Now, what time do you suppose you cleaned the steps?
Well, I'll get up, you see, at 5 o'clock sharp. I don't bother to do my hair, nothing like that. I mean, I leave my hair curlers in, so I just put an old cap on. I go down, I put the kettle on, I do the steps. By the time I've done the steps, the kettle's boiling. I make myself a cup of tea and I take it back, and say, up into my room and have a cup of tea.
Well, now, you'd go back up with your cup of tea about what time?
Oh, perhaps about 5:30, something like that.
And what time did you come back down from taking your curlers
6
out?
o'clock I come down to start off the breakfast preparations.
When you came back downstairs to get the breakfast, what time would it be?
6.
You'd heard Mr. Stiles go out, had you, old Sam
Oh,
Stiles?
yes, that's my signal. When I hear him go out, I'll go down to start the breakfast, you see.
And how long were you cooking the breakfast?
Well, I start, I put the kettle on, then I go into the room and lay the breakfast table, you see, and then I lay it all out. Of course, actually, cooking this breakfast don't take so long, you see. Egg and bacon war don't take long. I'll leave that for a bit till I think he's about coming in.
And in all that time, you didn't hear anybody move in the house at all?
No, not a sound.
Did you think to go and look for Albert?
No, why should I look for Albert?
Aren't you going to get his breakfast before he goes to work?
No. He gets his own breakfast time and again.
That's good enough then, Mr. Rood, I think, for the minute.
Thank you.
Now let's talk to Oswald Stiles, if we may. Good day, Mr. Stiles.
Good day.
You are a great enthusiast for Texas and Arizona.
Yes, indeed.
Never been there?
Alas, no, quite. Which I have.
I have.
Have you really? How
Yes.
very interesting.
Well, now, if you were to inherit, let us say, £20,000, you'd probably go there.
Oh, immediately. Yes, immediately.
Yes. You've read a great deal about it.
I think nearly everything was published.
I tell you, there's one great thing about it. The climate is so constant, there's no doubt you've read.
Oh, yes, indeed.
If it starts in to be fine, it stays fine. If it starts in to rain, it stays rain.
Yes, I have studied climate enormously, especially
Yes.
Texas and Arizona.
Talking of that climate, did you listen to the weather forecast that night?
Oh, yes, indeed, I always do.
You do you?
Yes, I study the weather.
Do you remember what it said? Talk.
Well, yes, I think it said that the night would be predominantly clear, but fog would be expected to creep into our area in the middle of the night.
Well, now, do you remember, did you listen to the weather forecast the night before that?
Well, of course, yes.
What did it say then?
Exactly the same thing.
And the night before that?
It so happened it was exactly the same thing. We have almost a fog.
Right, that'll be enough now, Mr. Stiles, and perhaps now we could talk to your brother, Mr. Bertram Stiles. Now, Mr. Stiles, you were about early this morning, I believe.
I was wakened up by my uncle going downstairs. He passes my room on the way. Did you put the radio on, did you? Yes, I do sometimes when I wake up. Like that. You did that morning? Yes.
Well, your uncle's a very old man, rather a light old man. Did he make as much noise as that going downstairs?
Well, he must have stumbled or something on the way down. He's rather awkward on his legs, and he makes a sort of noise, and he has a stick which sometimes taps.
Ah, quite.
You understand that?
Yeah.
How long have you been courting? Oh, well, that's a rather delicate question. Give us a delicate answer, will you? Well, actually, I mean, Miss Frisbee and I have been, as you put it, courting. How long have you been courting? For some considerable 4 or 5 years. You see, we have mutual mental interests, which we...
I dare say, but how long have you been courting?
About 4 or 5 years.
That's better.
Yes.
You're pretty frank, I noticed that, Mr. Bertram, and you said that anybody could have done this thing, anybody in the house.
Indeed.
That's very fair. Well, now, can I ask you a straight question? Did you do it?
No.
Idealistically speaking, don't you think that the cause of idealism might be well served if an old gentleman of this rather detrimental type should have an accident?
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Well, don't you think it's your duty as an idealist to help that accident?
No, because the whole of my philosophy is completely based on an abhorrence of violence.
Yes.
We work through the mind,
Yes.
not through physical things at all.
Oh.
There wouldn't be violence if he slipped up himself, would it? Violence against you, would it?
No, but I would not assist his end through violent methods.
Well, you might not be doing that. You might be just perfuming the steps for aesthetic reasons.
But you're suggesting that I did this to assist his demise.
Oh, I wouldn't
correct
suggest
word?
that,
Yes.
would I?
You say you heard Sam passing your door about 6.
Yes.
And where's your bedroom door in relation to his?
His door is next to mine on one side, and my brother Oswald is on the other side. I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle.
Yes.
Was that the first sound you're conscious of hearing that morning? Was
Yes.
that the noise that woke you?
Yes.
Did you hear anything of Albert's motor bicycle being revved up?
No, because I was playing music, my mood music.
Did you hear Miss Drood on the move in the house at all?
No.
Did you hear your uncle go out of the front door? Did he slam the front door?
No.
You heard him go down the stairs? Wouldn't it be a natural sequence of thought for you to wait for him to open the door and then shut it?
I can't see any reason.
Was your...
I know he goes out at that time every morning, more or less.
Well, now I see the producer signaling to us that that's the end of the interrogation. So at this point, I must hand the suspects back to you, Ted Mason.
Thank you, John Arlott. And now, while the panel are deciding amongst themselves who is the guilty party, I'll just run over the suspects once more for the benefit of those listeners at home who are trying to follow the clues. First of all, we have Mary Ann Drood. Well, her motive could have been one of revenge, apart from the money. Albert Drood, her son, had a very obvious motive. He hated his father, and he needed the money badly in order to go around the world. The 2 nephews, Oswald Stiles, well, he wished to go abroad, and he had no love for Uncle Sam. And, of course, Bertram Stiles wanted to get married, and he couldn't get married until Uncle Sam had died. So they all had a pretty strong motive for putting poor Uncle Sam out of the way. Which one of them was it who did the deed, and who gave himself away, and how? John, can you and your panel answer those questions?
I think I can answer the one question, Ted. Who gave himself away? Unfortunately, we can't see any method at all here of eliminating anybody at all. Any one of them might have done it.
True.
But the one who seemed to give himself away to us was Oswald Stiles, who in a bedroom where it was clearly stated the windows were hermetically sealed and the curtains drawn and the electric fire on, he nevertheless knew that it was a foggy morning. Now, it had been made quite clear early on by Galloway and Macready that when they set out to the party, the night was crisp and clear. But by the time they came back in the morning, it was foggy, though there was a break in the fog by that house. Now, very clearly, Oswald Stiles, who'd claimed to have been asleep since the night before, quite asleep in a closed-down room, would not know that it was foggy, and you see, he said something like an old man going out for a walk at 6 o'clock on a foggy morning. So he knew it was foggy. That's to say, he hadn't just been woken up. He had been out and knew there was a fog. Now, his method is quite simple, if he wants to follow it. If he hears Albert Drood go out, he can then go into Albert's room, take his soap, down after the old lady has done the steps, and soap the steps, and come back while she is upstairs, taking out her curlers, put the remaining scented soap in the bucket in the kitchen, and go up to his room. If she'd done it, Miss Drood, she obviously wouldn't have done that, which is the only step of elimination I can see. But it seems to us to add up to the one man who made the one mistake that we've seen, Oswald Stiles, who knew it was foggy when he claimed to have been asleep, since it was crisp and clear. So
And
we've done
also,
for him.
Ted, I think you remembered too well the weather forecast of the night before.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Oswald Stiles was the guilty party. I think you tied him up in knots on the question of the weather forecast.
But you have found the one clue. He couldn't have known it was foggy unless he'd been outside when he said he hadn't.
John Arlott, F.R. Buckley, and Robert Fabian were the panel in Slippery Sam, a problem in crime detection from the BBC series Guilty Party. The play was written by Edward J. Mason and the program produced by Tony Schreier.